Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're going to be tackling a question that's, I think, both fascinating and a little bit perplexing.
Yeah.
Why do some countries become economic powerhouses,
Right.
while others struggle even when they start from seemingly similar positions?
It's a question that has really intrigued economists and historians for a long time.
Yeah,
And it really highlights how success isn't just about having the right resources, it's about what you do with them.
exactly. It's like having all the ingredients for a delicious cake.
Right.
Right. But ending up with a soggy mess if you don't follow the recipe carefully.
Exactly.
We're going to be taking a look at some real-world examples to understand this better.
Yeah.
We've got 3 pairs of countries on our list today.
Okay.
Dominican Republic and Haiti,
Okay.
South Korea and North Korea,
Got it.
and Poland and Ukraine.
Okay, great.
Each of these pairs offers, I think, a really unique lens to examine this question. They share some similarities, geography, history, or those starting points, but their economic paths have diverged dramatically.
Dramatically.
First, stop the Caribbean.
Okay.
The Dominican Republic and Haiti share the island of Hispaniola.
Right.
And you'd think with such close proximity, their economic stories would be pretty similar, right?
You would think so, but not quite.
Oh,
The Dominican Republic has a GDP per capita of over $10,000,
wow.
while Haiti lags significantly behind at just over $1,200.
Hold on. GDP per capita. For those of us who aren't economists, can you break that down for us?
Yeah, so GDP per capita is essentially the average economic output
Okay.
per person in a country.
Okay.
It gives us a rough idea of the overall wealth and standard of living.
Okay.
So in the Dominican Republic, the average person produces and consumes goods and services worth over $10,000 a year,
Okay.
while in Haiti, it's closer to $1,200.
Yeah.
That's a significant difference.
Wow. That is a huge gap, especially considering they're on the same island.
It is.
Really highlights how location isn't the only factor in economic success.
Right.
What else might be at play here?
Well, Haiti have a history of political instability, facing long periods of turmoil and dictatorship, which has made it really challenging to attract investments and develop stable industries.
Makes sense.
The Dominican Republic, on the other hand, has experienced more periods of stability, particularly in recent decades.
So political stability seems to be a key ingredient in this recipe for economic success.
It appears so.
Did the Dominican Republic focus on anything specific to boost their economy?
Well, they've made strategic investments in areas like tourism, attracting visitors with their beautiful beaches and resorts. They've also developed their manufacturing sector, producing goods for both domestic consumption and export.
Interesting. So it's not just about stability, it's also about making like smart choices.
Right.
And investments.
Exactly.
All right, let's shift gears.
Okay.
And head over to the Korean Peninsula.
Right.
This is another fascinating comparison.
Yeah.
We have South Korea, a global economic powerhouse.
Yes.
And North Korea.
Yeah.
Well, not so much.
Not so much. This is a real life experiment. One country, two systems, two very different outcomes.
Yeah.
South Korea boasts a per capita GDP exceeding $41,000, while North Korea sits at a mere $685.
It's almost hard to believe that they were once a single nation.
I know.
What led to such a dramatic economic divide? I mean, I know they have different political systems.
Right.
But how does that translate to such a massive economic gap?
Well, South Korea adopted a market-oriented economy, which means that businesses are largely privately owned, and they operate based on supply and demand.
Got it.
This system encourages competition and innovation, which are really key drivers of economic growth.
Yeah.
They also embrace democratic reforms, opening up to the world and attracting foreign investment.
So what about North Korea? How did they go?
North Korea went in the opposite direction, implementing a centrally planned economy. This means the government controls most aspects of the economy, deciding what goods are produced, how they're distributed, and even setting prices.
It seems very hands-on.
Very hands-on.
Yeah.
This system tends to stifle innovation and limit individual economic freedom.
Okay.
They also maintain an authoritarian regime, isolating themselves from the global market. This combination has led to a much lower standard of living for their citizens.
So it seems like the choice of economic and political systems can have a profound impact on a nation's economic destiny.
Absolutely. It's like two chefs using the same ingredients but following completely different recipe.
It really is. And this brings us to our final comparison. Poland and Ukraine.
Okay.
Two countries that emerged from the shadow of the Soviet Union.
Right.
Their journeys have been quite different.
Very different.
Poland has seen significant economic growth with a GDP per capita of over $16,000.
That's right.
Ukraine, unfortunately, has faced more challenges with a pre-war GDP per capita of just over $3,200.
Yeah.
Okay, this is where things get really interesting.
Yeah.
Our sources indicate that Ukraine actually had stronger starting conditions than Poland after the fall of the Soviet Union.
That's right.
That seems counterintuitive.
It does.
What factors might have led to this difference?
Well, the sources we have today suggest that leadership choices in Ukraine may have played a role in hindering their economic development.
Okay.
Despite having the potential for success, the country has been grappling with issues like corruption and poor governance.
So even with the resources and opportunities, the wrong choices can derail progress.
Unfortunately, yes. It's a cautionary tale.
It is. And it leads us to another interesting point made by the source material.
Yeah.
The potential consequences of certain political and economic decisions.
Right.
The source makes a rather bold comparison.
It does.
Suggesting that Ukraine's future under its current leadership could resemble, wait for it,
Okay.
Haiti's.
That's a pretty serious claim.
That's a pretty serious claim. You're telling me that even though Ukraine started with an advantage over Poland,
right,
their choices could lead them down a path similar to Haiti's.
That's what the source is suggesting.
Wow, which has struggled for decades.
Right. It's a provocative argument for sure.
Yeah.
The source seems to be highlighting how a lack of effective leadership and robust institutions can significantly hinder economic development.
Regardless of your starting point.
Regardless of the starting point.
Absolutely a recipe gone wrong.
Yeah.
You can have all the right ingredients.
Right.
But if the chef doesn't know what you're doing, the dish just won't turn out well.
Exactly. And it brings us to another important point.
Okay.
The role of the citizenry. It's not just about the leaders, it's also about the active participation and informed choices of the people.
Okay, so we've seen that geography and initial resources don't guarantee success.
Right.
It seems like leadership choices and the role of citizens are crucial ingredients in the recipe for economic prosperity. So what does this all mean? We'll be back after a short.
So we've seen that starting conditions don't necessarily determine economic outcomes.
Right.
If it's not just about geography or resources, what are the secret ingredients that lead some nations to thrive while others struggle?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? And while there's no single magic formula, the examples we've looked at offer some, I think, valuable insights.
Yeah.
When we look at Haiti and Dominican Republic, for example, you can really see how history and politics have shaped their divergent paths.
You mentioned earlier that Haiti faced a lot of political instability.
Yes.
Can you elaborate on that a bit more for us?
Sure. Haiti endured centuries of brutal French colonial rule,
right,
followed by a tumultuous period of revolutions and internal conflicts. Then came a series of dictatorships that further destabilized the nation.
Yeah.
All of this turmoil made it incredibly difficult to establish a solid economic foundation. So basically, it was one challenge after another, making it really hard for them to, catch a break.
Exactly. And in contrast, the Dominican Republic, while not without its own challenges, experienced more periods of relative stability and economic growth, especially in recent decades. They were able to focus on building their tourism industry and manufacturing sector,
right,
which contributed to their higher GDP per capita.
Yeah, it seems like stability plays a huge role in creating an environment where businesses can thrive.
It does.
And people can prosper.
Yeah.
But what about the Koreas? I mean, their story seems even more dramatic.
It is.
How did their different systems play out in such a stark way?
Remember how we talked about South Korea embracing a market-oriented economy?
Yeah.
Well, that system really allowed them to take off. Think of it like a bustling marketplace.
Okay.
With lots of different vendors offering a variety of goods and services.
Yeah.
There's competition, which keeps prices down and quality up. Plus, there's constant innovation as people try to come up with new and better products.
So it's like a constant drive to improve and offer something unique.
Precisely. And in that kind of environment, individuals are encouraged to take risks, start businesses, and pursue their own economic goals. It's a recipe for dynamism and growth.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
But what about North Korea's centrally planned economy? How did that stifle their growth?
Well, imagine a scenario where the government is like a giant supermarket chain.
Okay.
That controls everything. They decide what products are available, how much they cost,
wow,
and who gets to buy them. There's very little room for individual initiative or creativity.
So people are essentially told what to do and how to do it.
Right.
Which probably doesn't inspire a ton of innovation.
Not much.
Yeah. It sounds like a system that prioritizes control over individual freedom.
That's a good way to put it. And that lack of freedom extends to economic activity as well, with the government dictating everything. There's little incentive for businesses to improve or for individuals to take risks and try new things. This ultimately leads to stagnation and a lower standard of living.
Okay, so we're seeing a pattern here.
Yeah.
Stability, freedom, and the right kind of economic system seem to be crucial factors.
They do.
In driving economic success.
Yeah.
But what about Poland and Ukraine? I mean, they both started from a similar place after the fall of the Soviet Union.
Right.
But their outcomes have been quite different.
Very different. This is where the argument about leadership becomes really important.
Okay.
The source material suggests that Ukraine, despite having potential, has been held back by issues like corruption and poor governance.
So even with resources and opportunities,
right,
the wrong choices at the top
can really hinder progress. Absolutely.
It's not just about having a good system in place. You also need leaders who are, I guess, competent, ethical, and focused on the long-term well-being of the nation.
Yes, absolutely. And remember, that provocative comparison the source made between Ukraine's future and Haiti's.
Yes.
It seems to be emphasizing that without effective leadership and strong institutions, economic development can be severely hampered, regardless of your starting point.
It really highlights the importance of choosing leaders wisely.
It does.
And holding them accountable for their decisions.
Absolutely. But the source also talked about the role of the citizenry.
Right. What does that look like in practice?
It's about being informed and engaged, not just during election time, but throughout the year. It's about understanding the issues, questioning your leaders, and demanding transparency and accountability.
So it's not enough to just vote and then sit back and hope for the best.
Yeah.
You need to stay informed.
You got to stay engaged.
Participate in the process and make your voice heard.
Exactly. And it's about recognizing that you have a stake in shaping the destiny of your nation.
Yeah.
It's not just about complaining when things go wrong. It's about actively contributing to solutions and demanding better from your leaders.
This is really making me think about the power of collective action. And the role we all play in creating a better future.
Absolutely. It's a powerful reminder that change doesn't just happen from the top down.
Right.
It also requires an engaged and informed citizenry. But what does that look like on a practical level?
Yeah.
What can individuals actually do to make a difference? We'll explore those questions and more after a quick wing.
We've talked about the importance of good leadership and active citizenship. But it feels like a bit of a chicken and egg situation, you know?
Right.
Like if a country has a history of corruption or poor governance, how do you break that cycle and cultivate better leaders?
That's a really complex challenge, but the source material we have today offers, I think, some thought-provoking ideas.
Okay, I'm all ears.
Think about it this way. If a society values short-term gains over long-term vision, it's more likely to elect leaders who promise quick fixes, even if those fixes aren't sustainable in the long run.
So it's like choosing the candy bar over the healthy meal.
Exactly. You get a temporary sugar rush, but it's not good for you in the long run.
Right, right.
And if citizens aren't demanding transparency, accountability, or a focus on the common good, those qualities won't be prioritized in selecting leaders.
It makes you wonder, how do you shift a society's mindset so they start demanding more from their leaders?
Well, education is key.
You mean formal schooling?
Yes, but it's also about fostering a culture of critical inquiry.
Okay.
Where people are encouraged to question assumptions, analyze information, and engage in respectful debate.
So it's not just about what you learn in a textbook. It's about developing the ability to think for yourself.
Yes.
To see through those empty promises.
Exactly.
And to really evaluate information critically.
Absolutely. Yeah. And access to reliable information is crucial. We're bombarded with so much information these days.
Yeah.
It's essential to be able to discern fact from fiction and to identify sources that are credible and trustworthy.
Right. It's like being a detective. You have to sift through the evidence.
Right.
And figure out what's real and what's not.
Exactly.
You need to be able to spot the difference between a genuine leader and someone who's just good at selling a story.
That's a great analogy. And, while we've been focusing on the role of leaders, we can't forget about the responsibility of the citizenry.
So what does that look like beyond just voting?
Right. How can we be more active and engaged citizens?
Yeah.
Well, it starts with staying informed about the issues that affect your community and your nation. Read newspapers, articles from reputable sources, follow the news, and engage in discussions with others.
Right.
It's also about holding your elected officials accountable.
Okay.
Not just during elections, but throughout their terms.
So it's about contacting your representatives, attending town hall meetings.
Yes.
And really making your voice heard.
Precisely. And it's about getting involved in your community, volunteering your time, supporting causes you believe in, and working with others to create positive change.
It sounds like active citizenship is about taking ownership of your role in shaping the future of your society.
Exactly. It's about recognizing that we're not just passengers on this ride.
Right.
We're all co-pilots, and we have a responsibility to help steer the ship in the right direction.
Wow, this deep dive has really given me a lot to think about. It's clear that economic success isn't just about, luck or circumstance.
It's not.
It's about making choices.
Yes.
Holding leaders accountable and actively shaping the kind of future we want.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Yeah.
And perhaps the most important takeaway is this. Understanding these complex dynamics is the first step towards positive change.
Yeah.
When we recognize the interplay of factors at play, we can start to make more informed decisions, both as individuals and as a society.
So the next time you hear someone complaining about their country's, economic woes, challenge them to think deeper.
Yes.
Ask them, what role are our leaders playing?
Good question.
What choices have we, the citizens, made?
Yeah.
And what can we do to create a more prosperous and equitable future for everyone?
That's a fantastic way to frame it. We've explored some compelling examples, uncovered hidden connections, and hopefully sparked some critical thinking along the way.
Yeah.
But the conversation doesn't end here.
Exactly. This is just the beginning of a much larger exploration. So keep those questions coming. Keep challenging assumptions, and most importantly,
keep learning.
Keep learning. That's what the deep dive is all about. Until next time, stay curious.